Public Order Act is really an assault on basic right to protest and right in the UK. That basically says that protests can be any like two or more people, and disruption can include anything up to noise, which basically means if you're going to cause any disruption, or your protest is thought that it could cause any disruption, it could upset people, it could be loud in any way, you can basically be arrested. And hypothetically, I think face 10 years in prison, although that'll never happen. And no one's actually going to get that sentence for being at a protest. But we had recently people being arrested for trying to protest the coronation, people trying to just hold signs saying "Not my king," were being arrested, were being detained. So let's go over this article from Ian Dunn. It says, "Not hypocrisy, it's cynicism. With an extraordinary sense of timing, the government is set to announce its free speech czar. According to press reports, the Cambridge professor Arif Ahmed is going to investigate student unions attempting to curtail campus debate. Back in the real world, the government is continuing to silence protest in Britain. In the aftermath of the coronation protests, it's provided a rare instance into which people realise just how far the assault on British liberties has progressed. The arrest of anti-monarchy activists have finally forced us to see the state we're in. Even the Telegraph and the more vociferous fringes of Brexit-supporting right look uncomfortable. The Met said it would crack down hard on protests in the days leading up to the coronation. Jesus. Suggesting they would have extremely low thresholds for demonstrations and pursue them with swift action." That's more the sort of shit I would expect to see in China. This is the fucking problem. You start with this public order, it's all about keeping public order. And like, it really, it's not in a slippery slope. It's like now we're arresting people while you can't protest the king. You're under arrest. Well, okay, how are we not becoming more like China? I'm not saying we're like China. Right, I just want to be clear. You have a hell of a lot more freedoms in Britain than you have in China. But it's insane. It's insane. You know, I always used to be quite like the fact that in Britain we don't need a written constitution. You just assumed you have rights, you have freedoms, because that's just Britain. But more and more you think, well, actually, like, in America they have the First Amendment, and this would just be impossible because you just have a guaranteed absolute right to protest. Right, not absolute right to do anything. You can't riot or smash the place up or go berserk, but you can protest. So you can never say, "Oh, you can't protest the president. You can't hold up a sign." And I kind of think we should have something like that here. I mean, I also like, because I'm like, well, I mean, I don't think we ever would have a written constitution. I wouldn't trust the Parliament would vote through anything that would give us the same kind of rights. But it's just, but we need something that can stop these crazy attacks on freedom. Anyway, let's carry on. If all true, despite months of meetings with police liaisons outlining their planning activities, activists for the group Republic were arrested on the morning of the coronation. Police used the new Public Order Act, which allows them to arrest anyone they suspect of possessing materials that can be used to lock on. For example, chaining themselves to a road. In this case, people said the straps used to bind placards satisfied the threshold. Jesus. So they said, well, you've got, if you can tie yourself to something, you've tied up, you've got bundles of placards there held together. So I think maybe we can see that in the painting. Yeah, if this is like tied up at the bottom, well, there you go. You can tie yourself up with that. So, oh, you're wearing a tie. No, you're wearing a tie. So you could tie yourself to a railing, you're under arrest. It wasn't until late evening, well after the coronation was over, that they were released. Those arrested state that the items would be used to secure their placards, and investigation has been unable to prove intent to use them to lock on and disrupt the event, the Met admitted. In a dispiriting series of events, the police threatened protesters and then arrested protesters, claiming it was not our intention to prevent protest. You can only believe this if you ignore everything the police said before the event and the way they behaved during it. Yeah, that's mental. It was not our intention to prevent protests. Yes, it was. Literally, yes, it was. You arrested the protesters. You arrested the protesters. It wasn't our intention to prevent protest. We just arrested anyone who's planning to protest and said we'd crack down on any protest. Right? You can only ignore, you can only believe this if you ignore everything the police said before the event and the way they behaved during it. It's therefore useful and superficially convincing to place all the blame on the police, or at minimum to use the police to distance ourselves from the implications of the arrest. The police are operationally independent of government, Prime Minister Rishi Sunak said on Monday. They make these decisions based on what they think best. You gave them the powers. They gave them the power to do this. Well, we gave them the powers and they're operationally independent. So it's not really our fault for giving police power to stop protests whenever they want for any reason. So, I mean, we can't be blamed, really. It's madness. It's complacent nonsense. The police do not make operational decisions in a vacuum. They do so on the basis of the powers they have been handed by Parliament and with an ear to the rhetoric of the Home Secretary. They take their cue from their political masters. In this case, the message was crystal clear. The Public Order Act set the threshold for police action incredibly low. Serious disruption was defined as a single person or organisation being hindered more than a minor degree from their day-to-day activities. Police could now initiate a stop and search against any item which might be used for locking on, like glue or a bike lock, or evidently the straps used to bind placards. They could even initiate the stop and search if they had no suspicion the person had those items. Fuck! You know what I mean when I say this is like China? Not Britain's like China. I can call the Prime Minister a shithead. It doesn't matter, right? But this is like the sort of thing I would expect an authoritarian state, Iran, China, Saudi Arabia. This isn't something you expect in Britain, right? And this is really dangerous. This is the government taking away your right to protest and then abdicating all responsibility to kind of half blame the police. The Met Police is in a state of advanced moral and operational collapse. As Louise Case's review found, it is guilty of institutional racism, misogyny and homophobia, and is experiencing a catastrophic decline in public trust. It plainly cannot be trusted with the powers, but we should be clear, no police force can be trusted with them because the powers are far too broad. They do not ban any one thing. They use nebulous, meaningless terminology to allow the police to arrest any protesters whenever they please. This is what the Act does. This is what it's intended to do. The fault lies with those who wrote it, promoted and voted for it. Yeah, absolutely. A lot of us could see this Act coming a mile off. Most people weren't switched on to it. It is really, really, really damaging to the whole of British democracy, right? That now, essentially, if you protest, the police can't just arrest you at any time, at any point, for any reason, right? And it means politicians can say, no, I don't like that people are protesting against me. Stop it all now. Arrest them, and you don't have to. Again, they're not even being arrested just for being at protests. You can just arrest everybody before they even turn up. Right? You demand to search them. Oh, you aren't. Oh, you weren't. Well, you've got laces. You could use those to tie yourself to something. So, yeah, you're under arrest. This is really, really worrying. The conversation has naturally shifted to where Labour would repeal the bill if it was in power. The party's responses to this have been utterly hopeless. Keir Starmer has been speaking the most vanilla. One hand on this, but Keir Starmer has been speaking the most vanilla on the one hand this, but on the other hand that vacuities on the issue. But in truth, it's much more than just the Public Order Act. Most protesters arrested before the coronation were held under an earlier piece of legislation, the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Act, which was originally initiated by the previous Home Secretary Priti Patel and passed into law last year. It was abysmal for all sorts of reasons, but one of its most pernicious elements was an offence of intentionally or recklessly causing public nuisance. This had originally developed as an offence of the common law, but the Act scrapped that and put it in statute. It was just like the Public Order Act, extremely broadly worded. Again, this was not an error. It was written to maximise the discretion of the police and accompanied statements from ministers that encourage the public to crack down on activists. 32 of 64 people arrested on Sunday were detained under this provision. This isn't about repealing the Public Order Act. It's much bigger than that. It's about dismantling the legal architecture of a government which has launched a concerted attack on the right to protest and therefore the right to freedom of speech. Absolutely. This has to stop, right? We've got to We need in Britain to protect free speech, which we haven't done for a long time, right? Free speech is one of the most key rights there is, right? You know, it's probably maybe not the key one. You've got right to life, you've got other kinds of things, but it's one, like, you can't argue or defend anything without right to freedom of expression. And when the government deliberately create vague laws to allow them to just say to the police, yeah, stop these people speaking out against us, silence them, silence the other, like, you know, this is a direct assault on freedom. This makes us less free. This makes us have much less of a right to freedom of speech, and it essentially erases the right to protest. It turns it into something the state can tolerate. It's like, well, maybe you're doing a protest, maybe the police will choose to tolerate it. Maybe you'll all be arrested. You know, it depends. It depends on how we're feeling. It's like, well, yeah, okay. So there's no right to protest. Just if they may suffer your protest. Labour insists this is too much work. We can't come into office picking through all the Conservative legislation and repealing it, Shadow Foreign Secretary David Lammy told LBC. It'd take up so much parliamentary time. We need a positive agenda. But this is precisely what the coalition government did in 2010. It came to power and passed the Protection of Freedoms Act 2012, which repealed a whole raft of intrusive Labour legislation which affected people's civil liberties. It can be done. There is a government with the commitment and vision to do it. We must be able to see how this happened. No matter how many free speech SARs they used to attack students, the government has worked relentlessly to silence free speech. Correcting it should become a cornerstone of Labour's approach if it returns to power. Deciding not to do so will be a political choice, and one which spoke damningly to the priorities. Unfortunately, Labour have already made a political choice, and their political choice is that they are going to run the next election on a platform of being able to do Tory policy better than the Tories. And there is no way they will attack this bill. The thing that worries me the most, in fact, isn't just that, oh, they don't want to attack it, they're scared of the right-wing press, they're pandering to the right. It makes me think, do they agree with it? I mean, do they want to use it? If people are protesting against Keir Starmer, is he thinking, well, I mean, we could send the police to, you know, just arrest all of them? You know, what if we're having a load of protests? What if we decide we want to do nothing on climate change and the protests consider? Surely we want to get rid of these people too. Maybe we want to arrest, you know, it's worrying. I mean, do both our main parties just like actually want to abolish the right to protest? Is that what's going on? I mean, it's really, really worrying. Like, it's genuinely scary. Like, are we losing our right to protest? Now, how many other rights will we lose? People always say it's not a slippery slope. You know, yeah, we're just taking one right away. It's a little tweak of freedom. But, you know, and they always talk as if it's temporary. They always talk, well, we've got to deal with the people gluing themselves to roads, the Extinction Rebellion. So they talk as if, oh, this is a temporary measure to deal with this, which, first of all, it never is. It's gone. Once these rights are gone, they're gone. Secondly, I forgot what I was going to say now. But, yeah, it's just an aside. We just lose, yeah, it's so worrying, and we're just losing our freedoms by governments who, you know, not like some cartoonish supervillain. They want to take over the world. Yes, and soon I will be ruler. No, they just want political expediency, and it's expedient to use this legislation to silence protests. So why not? Just for political expediency. Right, that's why we'll lose our freedoms. That's why we'll end up not free. That's how we'll end up under tyranny. Because it was just expedient. Each freedom they took was expedient. It's expedient to deal with right to protest. Pretty soon it'll be expedient to deal with, you know, people say, you know, people saying certain things, people making other criticisms. Oh, you know, the people should be able to say this. Oh, the press shouldn't be allowed to use anonymous sources. Or, you know, and so on and so forth. Right, and it becomes... It will just carry on. And unfortunately, if we don't fight against it, if you don't tell politicians, we don't want this, write to your MP, especially if you're like in a Labour constituency, write to your MP. Tell them you're not happy with this and that you would at least like them to oppose it. Because I don't think you're going to, right. And even, you know, if you're in a Conservative constituency, there's plenty of like the more libertarian minded Tories who probably surely don't agree with this. So, you know, maybe speak to some, you know, write to them, speak to them. Tell people that we're just not happy, we want our freedoms, and we demand a right to free speech. Because if we lose that, we really lose everything.